Are you happy? Would you rather be happy than sad? Think about what makes you happy. Maybe some of you like to be happier than you are. And it's probably true that we're not quite as happy as God would like us to be. We could think about who are the happiest people in the world. Well, the answer to that is the saints. So if we want to be happy, then we want to be saints. Especially today as we celebrate the solemnity of all saints, it's good for us to think about all of our brothers and sisters who are up there with God in heaven. What it would be like to see all of them. That's what happens in our first reading we heard today, is that St. John, before he went himself to heaven, he got to see what heaven was kind of like. To think about how beautiful it is there. With all these great number of people, more than you've ever seen before. Millions and millions of angels, of cherubim, of seraphim. The assembly of all the apostles and the martyrs, virgins, all these holy men and women. A multitude of people that we can't count. Such a happy gathering. And even the least among them is more beautiful than the whole world. That's why we have different statues and in our stained glass windows, these images of the saints to try to help us to think of them, even now. What would it be like to be there with them, to see them all? They're so happy, always singing the beautiful songs of love, rejoicing with gladness. They share with each other joys that we just can't even think of. So much is their happiness, too, of being able to be there with God. And God's so happy that they're there, and they just share in his great love. Limitless joys. And guess what? Each of us, all of you, are invited to join them. To be with them for all eternity in their happiness. And we can imagine the saints encouraging us, calling out to us, saying, oh, someday we want each of you to be with us, to be with Jesus and God forever. And they can assure us and say, we might think that it might be really hard to get to heaven, but they say, it's not as hard as you think. And that some of the things that distract us here on earth are not as good as the things that lead us to heaven. So why are the saints so happy? Not just being up in heaven with God, but even when they were here on earth, before they went to heaven, they were incredibly happy. How do they get that happy? Well, because they saw everything the way that Jesus sees everything. And Jesus has a certain understanding of happiness. It's a little bit different from sometimes the way the world thinks about happiness. And that's what we see in our gospel, the Beatitudes. The Beatitudes teach us what we should go after while we're here on earth if we want to be the happiest we can be. It's the path of being blessed. For example, we won't go through all of them, but for example, it starts with, blessed are the poor in spirit. Many people in the world around us think that we'll be really happy if we have a whole bunch of money and we have all the best things. Most expensive stuff. But Jesus and the saints, they say, no, those things aren't going to make you happy. Instead, what makes you happy is not having to have all that stuff. And knowing that family and friends and things that last forever, those are much more important. One of the Beatitudes says, blessed are the meek. Many people in the world think that they'll be happy if they try to be better than everybody else. They got to have the fame and the glory, and they got to be number one, and if that means pushing everybody aside, then that'll make them happy. But Jesus and the saints, they say, nope. that won't make you happy. Instead, what makes us happy is instead of doing everything for me, it's doing things for others, putting other people first before us. Another one of the Beatitudes says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." Sometimes the world will tell us that, just do the bare minimum to get by. Don't put in too much work. And then spend the rest of your time just doing entertainment. But Jesus and the saints say, no, that won't make you happy either. Instead, we're happiest when we're really working hard to follow God, when we're really trying to become saints. So if we live out the different Beatitudes while we're here on earth, that will make us happy even now and lead us to the happiness of heaven. And if we stop to think about it, if we know some people that are really trying to live these out, they're almost saints here, even on earth, they're some of the happiest people around. Today, we're reminded to call upon all of our brothers and sisters, the saints, to ask for their prayers to help us to be able to live out the Beatitudes, these things that will lead us to the happiness of heaven. So with a special love and honor to them, we want to call upon the saints, especially the glorious Blessed Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus. And since Jesus is our brother, then Mary is our mother too, to ask for her intercession. Also the friendships of the angels that are up in heaven, especially our guardian angel, asking for their help and protection. And of course, too, to choose some specific saints that we might kind of have a connection with, to become friends with them. Maybe if there's a saint that you were named after, or our confirmation saint, to talk to them and ask for their help. Who are the happiest people in the world? The saints. So if we want to be happy, become saints.